cuties, how's it going? I'm Leslie. Welcome to my channel. I'm so excited to be here. I've been wanting to work on this project for a really long time, and it's finally happening. So thank you for everybody who's watching, liking and subscribing. I really appreciate everybody, and I'm just really excited to build a wonderful community with all of you where I just post I don't know, things about my life. But today's video is going to be all about tips on how to get into reading or making reading your hobby. Before we dive into the video, I do want to just say a quick disclaimer. Everything that I say in this video is really strictly my opinion. You can do your hobby however you want to do. But these are just the tips that helped me get started on my reading journey when I started about 2 years ago. Another thing is that I do work for a tech company, so there's not a lot of questions that I can answer when it comes to like mobile apps, software, hardware, really anything technology. I will speak briefly and broadly about a lot of tools that I use. And if you have any specific questions, I'll try my best to answer those. Just please don't get me fired because I do have a day job. And this is honestly just for fun season. It's again, just for me to build a community and put some cool content out to get you guys all started with some reading. I also do want to address that I live in California and the LA fires have truly been devastating for a lot of people that live here. So in the caption, there's going to be pretty much like a master list of a bunch of places that you can donate to, volunteer opportunities if you're within the area, and a list of GoFundMes that are going around to help people that have been impacted by the fires. So really anything that you can donate, I would truly appreciate it. I know all these people will truly appreciate it. So please look in the caption and you'll be able to see the links that I put in there for you. All right, so without further ado, let's get into it. The first tip that I'm going to give to new readers is to listen to audiobooks.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
All jokes aside, I did use audiobooks a lot when I first started reading. And of course, this is going to depend on the individual who is starting this hobby. If you're somebody that can't listen to audiobooks, then just go in. But I did begin listening to audiobooks mainly because, like I mentioned in the beginning, I'm really just an average person. I have like an average person job. I have average person chores and like average person friends and responsibilities. So sometimes I can't sit there and just read a book the entire day. I don't content create all the time. This is literally me starting. So I don't just sit around and kind of read. I read when I can. Sometimes I read like before bed or at work on my lunch breaks. So it really just depends, and I try to squeeze it in when I have time. But I didn't want to discourage myself, like, oh, I didn't get enough reading in. So audiobooks really helped me to listen to these stories when I was just doing regular things, like when I was doing my chores, when I was walking my dog, when I'm in the car commuting to work. So that really helped me because sometimes, like, I didn't really want to listen to music and I didn't really want to listen to a podcast. So listening to like a really good story while I'm like cooking and cleaning honestly made the world of a difference for me. And it just like made me want to, like, there's some books that I'd listen to and I'd be like, this is so cool. I wonder what the experience would be like to like just read this. So it kind of opened up that curiosity for me. But yeah, I love audiobooks. I highly recommend them. Another really cool thing about audiobooks is that they're just as accessible as reading regular books. So you can stream these on like a music platform. You can get a subscription and listen to audiobooks that way. You can also borrow audiobooks from the library if you didn't know that. Just like you can borrow like regular copy books, you can borrow physical books, audiobooks, and you can also borrow like ebooks from the library, which is really cool. So audiobooks are everywhere, super accessible. So I definitely recommend just finding what works best. Another reason why I love audiobooks and I can't stop recommending them is actually going to take us into tip number 2, which is immersive reading. So if you've never heard of this, immersive reading is essentially when you're listening to the audiobook but then reading the physical copy at the same time, or the ebook at the same time. This is going to allow for an even more immersive experience, and I love this. If I can immersive read a book, I will opt in to do it every single time. I absolutely love it. Unless it was like, I don't know, unless I didn't like how the person sounded in the audiobook, then maybe I won't. But most of the time, it's fine. It doesn't bother me. But this is a really cool like way to listen to your books and consume that media for kind of two big reasons for me. So the first reason is for memoirs. So whenever I'm reading a memoir and I listen to the audiobook, it just hits that much different. Like there's so many memoirs that are actually also like read out loud in audiobooks by the author. So one good example of this would be Jeanette McCurdy's memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died. She reads the audiobook for that. So when you're like listening to her and like reading at the same time, like you just can't put the emotion into the page the way she does because she wrote this and it's her life. So again, just one of the major reasons why I can't like recommend audiobooks enough, specifically immersive reading, is because it just hits. Another really good one was Drew Afualo's Loud. I love that book. I will probably reread it again. But she reads out the audiobook and it just hits that much more. I feel like with memoirs, when I listen to the audiobook and the person who wrote it is reading it, I almost feel like my bestie just called me and she's just spilling all her tea and they're just telling me everything. So I don't know, it just like really amplifies the experience for me and I love it. I can't get enough of it. Second biggest reason why I love immersive reading and I really recommend it is because it's allowed me to get more into like fantasy or a specific genre. So starting in my reading journey, I wasn't reading a lot of fantasy. I was mostly reading like horror or mystery. Like that's just what I was into. And I was a little bit afraid to dive into like a big, thick fantasy books, you know which ones I'm talking about, because I was afraid that I simply wasn't going to understand or that like I just didn't have like the mental capacity to really see in my brain like what the author is trying to describe, whether that was going to be a scenery, whether I was going to be able to pronounce like the characters' names right or anything like that. And through immersive reading, it really helped me like, oh, okay, so that's how you say that name, or like, oh, okay, so this one paragraph where it's describing the scene, I get it a little bit more simply because somebody's telling me like what the vibe is, you know what I mean? So it's just really helped me, and it also helps me like keep my attention when I'm reading. So when I first started and I was just trying to sit there in silence, like reading a book, it was really hard for me. Maybe I'm not the only one, but I feel like social media has just like rotted my brain. I have the attention span of like a goldfish. I can't sit there, even now, like sometimes I can't sit there for like a long time and read a book because I simply can't pay attention. But immersive reading has really changed the game for me, and it's really helped me kind of like sit there for longer and just like grow back my attention span because she's gone. She's nowhere to be found. All right, so now we're going to get into tip number 3, and I think this one's my favorite. And this tip is all about getting yourself something a little cutesy, a little something where you can see your progress. So what I would recommend is getting yourself like a book tracker app. There's tons out there you can download for free. You can also get yourself a cute little journal, or I know like sometimes you can buy yourself like a cute little template that you can either print or you can put in like an electronic device of some sort, like a tablet or your computer. But yeah, like track your progress. I think tracking things is super fun. I think that it's just a really cool way so you can see like how far you've come. The first year that I started reading books, I was mostly just tracking like how many books I read within the whole year. In the first year, I think I read 10 books, and I was like super hyped about that because I was not expecting to read that many books. And then last year, I read 20, so I was able to double that amount. And I think what really helped me was that I now keep track of books that I read in the year, of course, but I also keep track of how many days I read, like a reading streak kind of. So I think that's super fun to do, and it also just really motivates me to like read. I'll be like, oh my gosh, did I miss my streak? And I'll like check, and I'm like, okay, no, my streak is still good. So there's a bunch of fun apps that do that for you. You can either track like how many days you read, how many pages you read, how much time you spend reading. And I just think it's a really cute way, again, to just like track your growth in this hobby. Because I think it's natural for us to pick up a hobby and then want to track that progress. So getting yourself like an app or a journal could be a really, really cute way to do that. And it also makes it fun. I think no hobby is truly complete until you like accessorize. And that's one way that you can like accessorize this reading hobby. So this is a reading journal that I got for my birthday. One of my close friends gave this to me, and it's super cute. The background is like custom. They know I love cherries, so they made the background like custom, like little cherries. And then right here, hopefully you can see it. It has my name, and then just like reading journal, and then like the brand of the journal. It's so cute. Sorry, my dog's making a mess. It's so cute. I love it. And the inside is adorable. There's like a little about me section, and it says library card. It's just like the cutest thing. I hope you can see it. I think you can. Yeah, it's super cute. It allows me to customize it however I want. I have like a wish list here. And then I also have, oh, I love this. Or they're like journaling prompts, so I can write things of like, I don't know. So I could just like write how I'm feeling about certain books. So like one of the journaling prompts is, how would you describe this book in one sentence? Which is really hard to do. Imagine you're reading like a 600-page book and you can only describe it in one sentence. But I think this is super fun. And again, it just like really elevates the hobby for me. And it makes me want to like really ponder and think. I think it was easy for me to get back into reading because growing up, I've always actually really loved reading. Like, I was a shy kid. I didn't really have many friends. I had like one close friend growing up, and that was it. But yeah, I just loved reading, and I loved losing myself in a different world. I think it's because my parents didn't allow me to like watch TV or play video games. So reading was like the only thing that I could do to like really escape, I guess, the reality that I was living in. So yeah, reading has always been super fun for me. But now that I'm older, and like I mentioned, my attention span is just garbage, it's been really hard for me. And I think that like having little things like this that either motivate me to read more, or get me excited, or make me like think critically about what I just read, has really just elevated the hobby for me, honestly. It makes it that much more fun, that I can come up with these like complex ideas. Sometimes I'll read a book and I'm just like, what the hell did I just read? Like, whether there was like a cliffhanger or like the ending was ambiguous, and a lot of times like that bothers me. But then when I take a second and like critically think about it, I feel like so smart, and I feel so good about what I just read, and I end up liking it more than I thought that I did. So yeah, get yourself some kind of tracker, journal. I've seen people make like scrapbooks of the books that they've read, which is also super cool, super creative. But yeah, have fun with it. I sometimes make my own templates that I can put on like my electronic devices that I can fill out. So get super creative, and I think it's just gonna allow you, if you're not a creative person already, to like get those creative juices flowing. So yeah, that's tip number 3. Moving on to tip number 4 is gonna be, there's no shame in your game. So what do I mean by that? When I say that there's no shame in your game, I mean that you need to be honest with yourself when it comes to what book you want to read or what genre you want to read. I think that you should start off with your guilty pleasure. Like, what is something that just brings you joy, but like is maybe slightly cringe, and you're not big on talking about it with other people? So, for example, a lot of people that grew up like reading or were in the reading community, this wasn't me, but they would read like fan fiction online. I also grew up with like no internet. I know it's crazy to believe that, but I grew up with no internet. That's why I didn't watch any TV. I couldn't play any video games. I didn't have internet. Like, I was shielded from the world. But a lot of people grew up reading like fan fiction, And I think that that's what really sparks what somebody looks for, like in a book. So if you've never read fan fiction, I would suggest you give it a try. Like, find your niche and read fanfic. I know a popular fanfic, especially right now, is like Harry Potter, like Draco X Hermione, like love story. Some get really dark, some are like cutesy, and that's somebody's guilty pleasure. It could be mine. I don't know. I'm gonna dive deep into that this year, so I'm excited, but I'm also scared. But yeah, find whatever like your niche is and just dive all the way in. Another thing that you can do is you can try to find like, what do I like to watch on TV, or like what movies do I like, what shows do I like, and kind of go off of that. You can also go based off of like podcasts that you listen to. So if you're like a productivity person and you like to listen like to self-help podcasts, then maybe those are the book genres that you want to read first. Or if you're somebody who watches a lot of true crime, listens to true crime podcasts, loves horror, loves mystery, then that's most likely going to be your genre. And this doesn't mean that you have to stay in that box forever. Like I mentioned, I started off reading a lot of like mystery, horror books, and then now I've branched out and I almost exclusively right now only read like fantasy, with the exception of like 1 or 2 books. So yeah, that's just like a starting place. And again, to the tip, like, just have no shame in your game. Don't let anybody yuck your yum. Like, if you want to read like business books or just productivity books and nothing else, and somebody's like, oh, why do you do that? Like, don't let them yuck your yum. But also make sure that you like taste everything and expand like your book palette, because I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Alrighty, and that takes us to our last tip number 5, which is going to be to make sure that you always romanticize the experience. What do I mean by that? So what I mean is that whenever you're reading, make it an experience for you. I try to do this with everything in my life. Like, I wake up in the morning and I pretend in my head that I'm like freaking Cinderella and I have like birds chirping out my window, when that's not the case. It's really just my dog already in my face. But if I didn't romanticize the experience of waking up, getting ready, going to work, like I'm the main character, I think I would literally be miserable. And there's been times in my life where I just feel like Squidward when like every day is the same. And it's because I forget to like romanticize the experience. Anytime that you put your energy or like your time or your day into something, you have to make sure that you make that an experience for you, or else it just feels like you did absolutely nothing. And reading is exactly the same. Ways that you can romanticize this experience is taking your reading to a coffee shop. If you're able to, maybe on your day off from work, you can take yourself out on a little date. Take yourself to a cute coffee shop nearby that you've always been meaning to try, and just open up your little book, get yourself a coffee, put your little headphones in, even if you're not listening to anything. I know some people have a hard time like listening to music and reading. I listen to like classical music. I really love classical music, and I love listening to classical, especially when I'm reading. But I didn't start off that way. Again, remember, my attention span was like non-existent. So I just couldn't do anything other than like the one thing that I was doing. So sometimes I would go to like a coffee shop, and because I'm a chismosa and I would like eavesdrop, like my mind would just try to do everything but the project in front of me. So I would bring headphones and I'd put them on, and I wasn't actually listening to anything, but I looked cute. And it was a moment, and I gave myself that experience. So coffee shops are a really great place to kind of take your reading and make it cutesy. If you can't go to a coffee shop, or you just don't have the funds, because girl, I know a $7 coffee in California, trust, it hurts the bank account, then make the experience at home. Make yourself a cute little coffee at home, put it in a cute cup. Maybe you have a little straw, light a candle, sit on your couch with your little candle next to you. Don't start a fire, of course, but make it something cute. Make yourself like feel that like reading experience. Another way that I make myself experiences like at home is I'll turn on the TV and I'll set some kind of ambiance. Whether you have like a smart home or If you have like a smart TV, you can always go on the internet and look up like an ambiance, and it plays music in the background, and maybe your ambiance is like beach. Like, for example, during the summer I was reading this book about like a mermaid, and but I couldn't take myself physically to the beach to like complete the experience. So I set a little ambiance on my TV where it played like the beach, and it had like a little bit of noise, like very low volume, like waves crashing, low volume, like people activity. So it really made me feel like I was taking my reading to the beach. So again, and I was just like sitting in my room. Like, this is my room, and this is like nowhere near what the beach looks like, but I was sitting in here like fully convinced that I was like laying in the sand and like reading my little book. So again, use your imagination. We make do around here, okay? But yeah, setting an ambiance is a really great place and the way to really enhance your reading experience. And lastly, when it comes to romanticizing anything that you do in life, is do it on your own time. I'm not always in the mood to read a book. I actually started watching Game of Thrones last year, like halfway through the year, and I've been obsessed with it. I know I'm super late to the game, but there's times where I much rather watch that show for like 3 hours straight, which is only like 3 episodes because episodes are so long, but I would much rather do that than read my book, and that's fine. I'm not going to force myself to read my book if that's just not what I want to do. And this is part of romanticizing the experience. Like, reading a book, to me, it's like I need to really be in the moment. And for a lot of people, they feel the same way. So make sure that you really only read when you want to do it. Do it on your own time. Whether, like I said, it's going to be on your days off. Maybe you only read on your days off. Or you can also, maybe you only read when you're on your lunch breaks. Last year, I kind of got a little crazy, and I was reading like 2 or 3 books at a time. I don't think I'll be doing that again this year. Hopefully not. But there was like a book that I'd read before bed, and then I had a book that I was reading like exclusively on my lunch breaks. So again, you can like break this up however you want, and do it on your own time. Do it whenever it's not gonna like, I don't know, make you feel like you're forcing yourself. Because again, hobbies are supposed to be fun. They're supposed to be a way for us to decompress, a way for us to de-stress about like our day-to-day lives and our tasks. And if you make reading a chore, it's not going to stick. You're not going to like it, and it's not going to stick. Also, don't be afraid to DNF books. DNF means did not finish. So don't be afraid to put down a book that you're like, I thought I was going to like this, but this actually sucks. Like, I hate it. Don't be afraid to do that. Last year, my reading goal was 20 books, and I was really close. I was like a week away from like the new year. So I picked up a small little novella. It was like this thick. It was tiny. And I thought I was going to like it. It was like a spooky, like creepy, like graveyard, like book. And I'll do a book review on everything that I read last year. But I hated it. It was so boring. I could not get into it. It just wasn't for me. But I forced myself through all like 100 pages. I think it was like 100 pages or something. And I was at the risk of going into a reading slump. Because that's how much I disliked that book. And all for what? Like, yeah, I reached my goal, which is cool. Yeah, I'm really proud of it, actually. But yeah, I reached my goal, which was cool, but at what cost? Like, I could have been struggling right now. I don't think I'd be making this video right now if I went into a reading slump. So don't do that to yourself. Like, be real, be honest. The world isn't going to end if you like shut the book, or if you didn't read one day, or if you haven't read for 3 days and now you're picking it up again. Do this on your own time. Again, make it an experience. You're the main character of your movie, so remember to romanticize every day and everything that you do, not just when it comes to reading. Okay, fine. Since you asked for it, I'll throw in one other tip. Tip number 6 is going to be get yourself something cozy, okay? Because when you're reading, especially if you're reading at home, you're going to want something cozy. So if you have a pet, like, force them to lay next to you. Just kidding. We don't promote animal cruelty here. But honestly, I think, like, when my dog lays next to me and I'm reading and I'm, like, covered in a blanket, oh, my gosh. I, like, never want to get up. I want to stay there forever. I don't care about the outside world anymore. I don't care what's going on outside of these four walls. Like, I'm staying inside. But yeah, get yourself something cozy. Get yourself some fuzzy socks. Get yourself like a cute little, I don't know, like a pajama set. I love being in pajamas. Get yourself a blanket. I have my little blanket right now that I have covering my legs because I get so chilly. But yeah, get yourself something cute and cozy. If you don't already have like a plushie or a squishmallow, I freaking love squishmallows. I love them so much. You can see I have a couple on my bed. I won't disclose how many I have because it's not relevant to this video. But I love nothing more than like laying on that squishmallow and just like reading my book. So that'll be tip number 6 if you want to take it. Get yourself something cozy, and if you can, or if you already have one, bring your furry friend with you and make them part of the experience. Because again, everything is an experience and you're the main character. All right, everyone. So that's going to be it for today's video. I'm so excited. I'm so glad that I'm finally doing this. This is another hobby that I'm picking up. So I hope that everybody here had a good time. I hope these tips were helpful. Again, super beginner friendly. I can make a different one later when you're a little bit more advanced in your reading, or if you want something that's a little bit more advanced for your reading. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate every single one of you that are watching this. It's probably just like my sister. My sister's my biggest fan. So thanks, sis. Thanks for watching. But yes, please like and subscribe and comment any video ideas that you have for me, or if you have any specific questions. Again, I'll do my best to answer them. I can't get fired, y'all. Like, please, I don't want to be on the streets. So don't fire me. Don't get me fired. And please, please, please also don't forget to take a look at the caption that I have with all the resources, all the links for places to donate, volunteer, and GoFundMes that are currently active for those that were impacted by the fires. If you do anything, or if you take anything away from this video, please let it be that. I can't emphasize enough how devastating this has been for California and LA, which I love deeply, and the community that's there. So please, please, like I said, if that's the only thing that you look at today, let it be that. But thank you again so much for joining me, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye, besties.